Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. You know, years ago, promotional giveaways were a lot more common than they are today. You don't see too many companies giving away promotional items, and today we have a little miniature crowbar that I've been sitting on for a long time, and I thought this would be a perfect time to do it, but it's going to be a lot more work than it looks like, so let's get downstairs, let's get started and see how it turns out. Okay, today we're going to be talking about a type of crowbars, but before I get into that, there are so many different kind of pry bars for so many specialty things that you can use it for. Here down in the shop, I have just a few of them that I own, but you know, there are flat bars. Basically, these are used for like getting in between moldings and things like that, or flat bars. You know, they're much thinner. They have a thin profile usually, like they flat, or they sometimes call them wonder bars. Here's a nice homemade one, and you know, when my grandfather was, he wouldn't throw anything out, and none of us did, because that's the way we were taught. So here's an old file that was when it was worn out and, you know, was beat down. What you would do is you take it, and then you could flatten it out with a torch, bend it over, reheat it, retemper it, turn it into a nice tool. This was a homemade tool, and they did a good job. But like I said, these are cat's paws. You ever see these? Now, these are basically made to get in for smaller areas and whatnot, but this has a nail remover. I was going to show how this works. This one here is stainless, and this beautiful one over here is titanium. And boy, if you could feel how light this is, titanium is something else. And so, but we're going to talk about crowbars basically. And what crowbars are traditionally a hexagonal shape is the cross section, a six-sided shape, and it's usually bent to like an umbrella handle top, and the bottom has a prying area flattened out, sometimes with a notch in it for removing nails. These obviously come in all different sizes and shapes, widths, and also weights, you know, and they're made of usually a ductile or a malleable steel that will not snap on you, but it's got to be strong enough. So it's like a spring steel, a very good tempering process they use for these to make them super strong. Before we get started, one thing I want to point out is when you buy a crowbar, if ever you buy one new, you're going to find a sticker on here. And these stickers, the way they put them on crowbars, for some reason, these are some of the hardest stickers to get off, because they ship them just like this. They don't wrap them in anything, so that sticker's got to stay on there. And unfortunately, when you try and take it off, it always is a problem to take off. So I'm going to show you how to take off any kind of, stickers bother me, you know, when they're on tools. I'm going to show you how to take off a sticker very easily without too much fuss. Now, I've tried a lot of things to try and remove stickers off of products. You know, they have this goof off, but you got to be careful with this. This can damage a lot of the undersurfaces. It removes a lot of dried up paint and things like that. It could also dull the paint. So this is something I don't usually like to use. Naphtha is very good, but the thing is that, again, it's not as good as this product I found, and this thing's been around for years. You get some Promotional lighter fluid. I use this all the time for all different, there's a little bit of oil in this, and the ingredients in this lighter fluid. And what you do is all you do is you saturate the sticker like this, try and get under the edges or whatever, and just saturate it, let it soak in, and after a couple seconds, with your thumbnail on that, it should be able to pull up, and using this, you could wipe it clean. Now, like I said, there's all types of sizes and shapes of the crowbars, coming down from very small ones like these, you know, 12-inch type, 15, 18, 24, and these are 36. These are, and even a 48-inch. This is a 36-inch crowbar made by Stanley. This is a really nice crowbar. They must use a powder coating or something on here, very thick, but you can see here the edge, very thick. So sometimes that won't be able to get into an area that you might want to. So you have to know what you're going to be using it for. That's why I have so many. If I'm going to be doing a demolition job, I'll take one of the older ones I have. These are USA, real nice ones. This one here, this is the most expensive crowbar I have, and that's because this one's titanium. And this thing is light as a feather. I mean, it is beautiful, huh? Titanium. Try and find one of those. And this one here is this is more of a construction bar, and you can see over here the way the tip is. This has that little nail hole, but this is a Stanley Fat Max, but this thing is huge. But it's not hexagon, but it is definitely just the weight of this. It's a good workout to carry around. But what we're going to talk about today is today's project, and that brings us to today's project, which is this beautiful little 10-inch crowbar that I have a couple of these, but this one is just totally intriguing to me. They gave these away as advertising promotionals back in years ago, and you can see this one here was the Barlow Grain and Stock Exchange in Barlow, North Dakota. How cool is that? So this thing's been around for a long time now. Traditionally, what they used to do with these is they would paint them, as you could see. They would paint them, and this had a little flattened area here that you can use for a little bit of a hammer, and obviously it had the little pry bar here for nails, which you could rock back on this little fulcrum to take out nails. It was just a wonderful little design. It didn't have the nail puller here, but it did have the pry bar, nice and thin. Just a beautiful, these were giveaways, and you could see why they were so popular. And these do get a little bit of money, like putty knives and the other things I tell you to keep an eye out for. These advertising ones really do a nice job. And when I saw this, I said, I know exactly what I want to do with this, especially with that lettering ingrained in there. And then, so let's get started. And the first thing we're going to do is try and get some of this old paint off there. Okay, here we are for our post wire brush evaluation, and look at this. Look how nice this is coming along. Now, I could easily just call it quits here and be very satisfied. However, I want to take it to the next step. And you could see here, you know, we have some traditional forge marks that we have here along the edges and the tips. And again, the lettering came out nice. That was some really thick paint, because when I was scrubbing it off, so obviously this was dipped, and that's what kept it from rusting out and stuff. But you see here, we'll get that nice. I went over it with the fine wire brush, the stiff but fine wire brush, which leaves a really nice finish to it. But we're going to try, see this one here. You got a big forge mark there. We're going to try and polish this out. Can you imagine? Okay, let's give it a shot. Now, if you look real close here, see some of these forge marks, they're very difficult to get out. And the belt sander, it's just very difficult to get without compromising this hexagon shape. You want it to look like that. And it's a little difficult over there, and we're trying. But on the curved shapes, we can't do that. So I do it with a file, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, here's where we're at. I just spent an hour and 20 minutes filing this thing to get out as much of the forging marks and everything I could, because the belt sander, what was happening with the belt sander is when you put a flat area on the belt, and you saw me put the platen back in there to try and get it, but it's no good. With this here, the belt sander tends to round over these hexagons, you know, and it wants to make it round more or less, and I didn't want to do that, especially with this beautiful bar. So I took it off, put it in Great Grandpa's vise, and did every facet one at a time. First with a coarse file, then with a fine file. And I have to tell you something, I actually like the look, you know, because it shows all my work, you know, for me. This is for me. So the only problem is there's a little part here I couldn't get out, because you could see there, that's a little bit too deep. If I try and make the rest of this, it'll compromise the integrity of the thickness of this, and so I have to leave that the way it is. But I'm liking the way it's coming so far. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to double check, make sure there's nothing else that I want to file down. I did the top here. You see this? What a job I did on the top here to make this smooth so that this works like a cam, like it should when you're pulling nails. So that came out real good up here. And so let's get finished. I wanted to fill in the letters with some paint just the top of the head, and and then polish a little bit. So let's get to it. Now you know my favorite part. Remember what it looked like before we started. And we are calling this project done. Now, I've always liked these little crowbars, these giveaway crowbars, and you can see here we did the lettering, and you can see it says Barlow Grain and Stock Exchange, Barlow, North Dakota. And I originally wanted to paint the top from here up red, and then do the lettering, but I don't know. I started doing this. I have over 5 hours in this tool. Can you imagine that for a restoration? It's just insane, because every surface had to be filed down and resurfaced more or less to get it to take a polish. And this is one of those things. A crowbar is definitely, I can't even imagine doing a 36-inch crowbar, but it was a challenge, and I'm glad I took it on. And this is such a nice little tool, you know. I mean, what a great giveaway. They don't do stuff like that anymore, you know. I really wish they did, because it was just such a nice way for a company to give their customers something, and then they'd really like and remember them. So let me show you how this beauty works. Now, this little bar did have the ability to tap in small nails and things like that with the hammer, and it did work. But the pry bar was really great, because once you got the nail here, you could see that rocking motion back here. It just makes it removing any kind of nail so easy. That rocking motion on any kind of nail puller is just a fantastic thing to have. And even when prying up, you know, here you would use this area for either, you know, banging in or wedging onto something to pry it up. So it had a ton of uses, this little bar. So in closing, we had this great little Barlow Grain and Stock Exchange giveaway from Barlow, North Dakota. And appreciate you tuning in. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.